Now on the phone tonight, we are joined in by an independent Zimbabwean MP who is Themba Mliswa, joining us from the phone all the way from Botswana, where the SADC meeting on the Zimbabwe situation is currently underway. Honorable Mliswa, welcome to ANN7. How are you tonight?
Thank you. I'm good and very good evening to the listeners.
Honorable, welcome to ANN7. Any news on the SADC meeting? Can you give us an update on what's happening right there in Botswana?
Yes, there is resolved that the Troika Ministerial Committee will now recommend to the people of the extraordinary meeting that will include the heads of state. But what was interesting is that President Zuma sent an envoy to Zimbabwe on a fact-finding mission, but they seem to have made that decision without any report back from those envoys. Then does put all this thing into confusion to say, how did they reach the decision where the SADC head of state would meet an extraordinary meeting when these envoys have not reported to the chairman, who's President Zuma, or to them. It shows that there is no crisis in Zimbabwe, and one to be doing something where there's nothing happening. There are more serious issues happening in Africa, in the DRC, which they could have intervened and attended to. Lesotho took a lot of time and so forth. There is no crisis in Zimbabwe to talk about. The Zimbabwe people have not reported of any crisis. No one has died. No one is shot. If there's anything, they are celebrating what is happening in Zimbabwe. I did speak to the chairperson about them interfering into the internal affairs of ZANU-PF. The military has been very clear that there's instability in the ruling party, which is the governing party. As a result, SADC coming in to interfere into the affairs of ZANU-PF because of an extraordinary Congress, which will then choose who the leader is. And the president wants his wife, the First Lady, Dr. Grace Mugabe, to be the leader, and that is the reason why former Vice President Mnangagwa was fired. That has brought instability. So this is the issue which SADC must be very careful about, in that they are now getting involved in the internal factions of ZANU-PF, and they must back off. There is no crisis in Zimbabwe, and they must not waste time rather focus on economic issues in Zimbabwe, where even the bond note, which is a currency Zimbabwe talked about, has failed. And as a result, most Zimbabweans are now going to South Africa, they're going to Botswana, and as a result, any economic crisis that happens is likely to bring in national security threat. That's the reason why the defense forces have moved in, because the economic situation is not looking too good, and that can create a problem. The reason why the president is confined to the State House is that when he goes out there, there is fear that something is likely to happen to him. The defense forces are there to assist the president in his security, and I think that is something that we all understand. There's a buy-in from everybody in Zimbabwe, and I'm hoping that the president takes heed of what is happening and does not apply delaying tactics, and President Zuma must be consistent and must not be hypocritical. There's no point for policy all along. So that the first thing has been a de facto president of Zimbabwe who was not elected. Why did that? But the de facto president who was elected.
Well, Honorable, just to clarify, do you think that maybe this is in the interest of Zimbabwe, that the army puts in a new government there?
It is totally in the interest of Zimbabwe. No Zimbabwean is crying foul. No one has been killed. The Zimbabwean army is the army for the people of Zimbabwe. They are part of Zimbabwe. I don't know why people want to separate the Zimbabwean army from the people of Zimbabwe. They are one and the same challenges that every Zimbabwean is facing. As a result, they are mandated to step in. There is a program called Command Agriculture, which is substitution for potatoes.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable. We will just stay on the line with us. We will be speaking to you, as we go on with this program. And in our studio, we also have KF Malindi, who is a political analyst and a journalist from Zimbabwe. And we also have Mr. Jean Boassa, who is the leader in DRC diaspora. Gentlemen, welcome to Africa Tonight, right here on ANN7.
Thank you, madam.
Right. Well, let me start with you, Malindi, since you are from Zimbabwe. Right. Now, tell me, what development do you think maybe are going to shape up this coming days in Zimbabwe?
I think we're going to see numerous developments from a national, regional to international level. We've heard from London. Boris Johnson has commented on the events taking place in Zimbabwe. Closer to home, we've heard from President Jacob Zuma as well as the SADC Troika. But I think the more pertinent issues to look at are two macro issues that are going to occur nationally. One, the most macro, is whether Robert Mugabe is going to sign the deal and resign. To try and discuss that at any level would be speculation. The deliberations are closed and information is very tight to get. However, what is a bit more obvious is the reaction from the opposition. Yes. In the past 2.5 days, we haven't heard from them at all. And they had been losing traction. And today they finally made their voices heard and are pushing for an interim government to come into place to take Zimbabwe through. Which is what
was expected, of course,
exactly,
especially Tsvangirai, who was away, who also fled Zimbabwe. But of course, after this whole incident or this crisis, definitely he would be one of the people going back to Zimbabwe, right?
Exactly, and more so because what this faction, the low-cost faction, has done in Zimbabwe, has done within ZANU-PF, is remove Robert Mugabe. Well, he hasn't been removed, but remove a symbol of tyranny, which is, of course, the G40. And what it has done is it brought about change in Zimbabwe, even the most minute of change for the past 37 years. And this has given popularity to this faction amongst the people. Social media is rife with people saying that they're happy. People are just waiting for Robert Mugabe to sign. That is undoubtable. But now the problem for the opposition, and this is one of the developments that is going to occur, is that this has given leverage back to ZANU-PF and back to the Lacoste faction.
Of course.
So I think that is the biggest development apart from Robert Mugabe's resignation.
But now tell me, Malindi, how true is it that Mnangagwa actually stands a chance to become the next president?
We can't run
And what will the Zimbabweans say about it, and especially the youth? I think we want to hear more about what the youth or the people of Zimbabwe are saying about this. Do they support maybe Mnangagwa?
That would be speculation as well. But what I do definitely know is that Vice President Mnangagwa is a part of an institution that the country 2 months ago did not want to hear of. So we cannot run away from that. ZANU-PF in its totality is an institution, a party that no one wanted to hear of. And everyone has been pushing for the youth to register to vote because everything boiled down to election 2018. However, looking at the current situation and what's going to develop, apart from what people actually want, we do know that people want change. And any type of change at this point in time will be acceptable. It might not be what people want, but it will be acceptable. It will be a development that we have not had for 37 years. And to say whether Emmerson Mnangagwa is going to become the president of Zimbabwe, we have to look at the fact that everything that has happened in the past 2.5 days has happened primarily because he was fired from office.
Okay, Malindi, we'll just get back to you right there. Stay with us. Definitely we'd want to know more about what's happening in Zimbabwe. Let me just jump to Jean, who's from DRC. I'm sure what is happening in Zimbabwe, it's similar to what is happening in DRC. And now with SADC coming in and all the African unions also coming in, does it give you hope in DRC of what is happening, since you know that we also have your President Kabila, who also doesn't want to step down? What does it say to you, from DRC and the people of DRC?
Nothing much compared to what is happening in Zimbabwe. And I'm saying this, the Zimbabwean might be experiencing what we call the Zimbabwean Spring, as we had the Arab Spring. But it is not the same case with DRC. And often I highlight this point. that Congo is different from any other African country.
Okay.
And I'm happy when I hear Malindi talking, because one of the legacy, despite the fact that he was a dictator, that's King Bob, and we often call him Malume Bob.
Malume Bob, of course.
Bequeathed to the Zimbabwean, they must be proud of it. It's education, because he never back off with education. Every young Zimbabwean has gone to study. You hear the far cry about fees must fall and all this. But in Zimbabwe, people were about to study, and this is very important and a key factor. We can forget about the misery, but what is bewildering for us as Congolese is the fact that even the new so-called dispensation, if ever it happens, that Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa will take over from Mr.
From Mugabe, from Malume.
From Malume Mugabe.
Malume Mugabe. Yes.
That is not going to change anything for the Congolese, because they've been in the same boat for several years and several decades. And with regard to the connection with the Congolese, in 1998, it's the same people that were actually plundering Congo. And the same will continue. They will guarantee the protection of the young boy who is in the Congo, Joseph Kabila, who is refusing, like Malume Bob, to relinquish the power. They don't want, and it is always sad, it always saddens us as Africans. Why do you have to cling to power until the last moment?
Exactly.
Just from sublime to ridiculous.
I'm going to cut you there for a while. You know, I'll definitely get back to you in studio, because it's actually heating up. It's actually heated right in studio. But on the phone line, we also have our ANN7 reporter, Audrey Chimwanda, an ANN7 journalist who is in Harare at the moment in Zimbabwe, joining us on the phone line. Ms. Chimwanda, welcome to ANN7.
Very good evening to you, Palesa, and our viewers, of course. Just to give you an update from what's been happening from the afternoon when I last spoke to you with regards to President Robert Mugabe having been seen in his presidential convoy heading to the States. I'm sure we can confirm by now you're aware that he had a meeting with the Zimbabwe Defense Forces Commander, General Constantino Chiwenga. Also present was clergyman, Father Fidelis Mukonori. He's also seen in the pictures that have been doing the rounds on social media and online wires. Also, we have the SA envoy there meeting at the State House with President Robert Mugabe, Minister Nosipiwe Kula, Minister Bongo from the Security Ministry was also present. We do not know the details of what transpired in the meeting. Nothing official has been pronounced. But just looking at the body language, it cannot have been an easy conversation. Whatever transpired in the State House today was obviously, something that's going to shape the future of Zimbabweans going forward. We await an official announcement, Alessa. We do not know what transpired. There had some speculation going around that the SADC envoy sent by President Zuma, being the chair of SADC, has resolved that President Mugabe should stay on until December, when they have the extraordinary Congress that they're having in ZANU-PF, and that the First Lady Grace Mugabe should stay away from politics and not be involved. You know that she is the president of ZANU-PF Women's League. And those are the details that are coming through, but at this point, nothing official is happening. Zimbabweans are anxious. You know, they await in limbo, not knowing exactly what
the whole world is anxious.
We're expecting, we're expecting.
And of course, we are seeing these pictures, yes, doing rounds on social media. But then, Audrey, just, we're more interested now in, we had Joyce Mujuri and Morgan Changarai also spoke today. How do you read their statements?
Oh, well, obviously, they've welcomed, the military move, and they're trying to restore peace and order in the country. Also, there was reassurance they got from the military that everything remains peaceful. President Changarai was very open with the fact that Mugabe should step down. In fact, he's called for him to step down peacefully. And he says that whatever happens, between him and the president in the past, we do know that he was his nemesis, during the political era from 2009 to 2013 when he was the Prime Minister of Zimbabwe. The national government of unity, that did not pan out very well, but he says he wishes him well. He hopes nothing happens to him, that he stays safe, but he says it is time for him to go. Mujuru, on the other hand, is very evasive with regards to her answers, and she says she waits for the military to make a decision and tell us what is going on going forward.
Well, thank you so much, Audrey, and thank you for all the, the news and updates right here. And I hope you are safe right there in Zimbabwe and your hometown.
Oh no, everything is absolutely, Zimbabweans have been very disciplined throughout this whole process. The military is present, but everyone is aware of what's happening. But peace prevails in Harare as we speak.
Peace indeed. Now back to you in studio. We still have Malindi, who is a political analyst, and of course John from DRC. Now let me just start with you, John, right? How do you see SADC's role, in this whole matter? Is it maybe a little too late, or maybe is there a chance that SADC can broker a peace deal in Zimbabwe?
Well, I would support that SADC does, for the first time, something good for a member of state, which is Zimbabwe, in current state situation. If it happens, that good. But as a Congolese, I am concerned that SADC has done nothing for the Congo. And besides, if they don't do anything for the Congo, that's normal, because I have already said that Congo must exit SADC. It's a toothless organization. The same applies to the African Union. And these organizations must be disbanded, because it's just a club of misleaders. I've said it a countless number of times. So whatever they're trying now, it's a far cry. They should have started doing it before.
And you think maybe SADC is not doing enough in Congo to help, with the crisis that's happening there? It's
a double standard situation there, because they're all involved in the plundering of Congo. And this is... you cannot tell the number of deaths that we have, 10 million people dead, and it's not a genocide. But 800,000 died in Rwanda, it was a genocide. So they're not doing enough. But Congo must exit SADC. This is my point. So if it happens for Zimbabwe and they do something, we will applaud. But what I'm happy with the Zimbabwean, it's the disciplined manner with which they have handled the situation. If it were in another country, I think at this point of time, like in the Congo, would have been blood shed everywhere. But we commend and we applaud the army in Zimbabwe for what they're doing.
Well, do you think that the army is actually doing the right thing in Zimbabwe right now, which is what could actually be happening in DRC, or what should be happening in DRC?
Well, it will be different in DRC, because the army in DRC is captured by those militias and some other country and multinationals. So it's different. The army in Zimbabwe is a Republican army. Despite what they did in the Congo, I would gladly forgive this if we were to take power in the Congo, but provided that they help Congo emerge from the chaos that we have encountering for the past 20 years. But they're doing the right thing now.
Yes.
Mugabe is going to step down for sure. Because
everyone keeps saying that.
He's no longer in power.
I mean, Malume Pop is a very stubborn person, as you know.
But he's no longer in power. He doesn't have effective power.
He is still the president.
Yes, he's still the president.
Actually said any
there are negotiations, but you can see from the body language that
well, just as a matter of time, let me just, quickly jump into Malindi there. Malindi, now tell me, as a Zimbabwean, right, please, can you explain to our viewers why is Zimbabwe important on the African and the global map with its own set of political problems? Why is it so important? What is it about Zimbabwe that wants, the whole world to know what is happening?
First of all, let me reiterate what Jean has said, and that, yes, indeed, kudos must be given to our military for being extremely professional and safeguarding the rights and the liberties of the people of Zimbabwe. More so for standing up for the people of Zimbabwe, because they have noticed what has been happening in our country, the plundering of our resources and openly laundering of our country. But to go to your question, I think Zimbabwe is a very peculiar nation. I think one of the smallest in Africa, one of the smallest populations as well. But if you look at it, you'll realize that over the past 20 years, the foreign policies of other countries have changed. The domestic policies of other countries have changed because of what is happening in Zimbabwe. In South Africa, we have the Zimbabwe Special Permit, the ZSPs, specifically because of the influx of people who have left Zimbabwe and come here. Yes. Immigration laws have changed in the UK and the US. Zimbabwe has been at the center of a number of other nations' policies. you have to agree that Zimbabwe, in terms of, was the former breadbasket of Africa, and I'm sure we're going to be the breadbasket of Africa again, but it was a very strong component of the economy of Southern Africa. And what is going on in Zimbabwe has also affected the economy of Southern Africa. Most importantly, I think, considering the events of the past 2.5 days, is the setting of precedent, which is why SADC has openly come in. In fact, not before we go to SADC, which is why Jacob Zuma firstly came in. Because I think there is a misconstruing of the facts there. The envoys that were sent initially by Jacob Zuma are not SADC envoys. Those are South African envoys, made up of South African officials. There have not as yet been any SADC envoys deployed into Zimbabwe. But I'm sure that they did say earlier today during the press statements at the Tracker that they would be pushing for that. But I mean, if there is a precedent for an open coup in Zimbabwe, what it will do for the rest of the region could potentially be disastrous. And I think that is the most important point to look at in regards to what's going on right now.
Okay. Gentlemen, just as a matter of time, unfortunately time flies when we're having fun. But thank you so much for joining us right here on Africa Tonight on ANN7. Thank you very much. And thank you to all our viewers who are watching us. And we will be back tomorrow with the latest from Zimbabwe and the African continent. A very good night to you.